to how to alkalize, energize, and detoxify to feel the happiest and the healthiest you've ever felt. What better time to do this than in the New Year, straight after the Christmas and New Year's festivities? I want to take this opportunity to say congratulations. Congratulations on taking the time out of your precious day and your precious evening to be here and to be fully present this evening. I know there's a lot of people that are listening right now, that we have almost 100 people that are logged in right now with us, which is really exciting, so welcome to everybody. And there's obviously, I've noticed there's a fair few people in here that I work with as well. If you are listening to a recording of this, congratulations on sticking to the program and the plan and committing to taking all the steps to watch this webinar in its entirety. You might be wondering what we're going to go through today, this evening. My name's Jason Grossman, and I've had the opportunity over the last 13 years to really work with over around 5,000 individuals to assist them in achieving their health and fitness and nutrition goals. I've also had the opportunity to learn a lot about neuro-linguistic programming and the ins and outs about how the mind really works, about the psychology of what really drives. We look at, food and nutrition. Somebody wants to lose weight. They want to lose 20, 30 kilos, and they're eating fantastic, and they're doing all this exercise. But the problem is that their psychology is not in alignment with their values and beliefs, and so they self-sabotage and so forth. So I've really had the opportunity to spend the last 13 years to focus on learning as much as I can about those three elements. One, about what drives us, what motivates us, how our minds work, and everybody is completely different, which just makes it even more fun. Two, fitness and exercise, everything about all different styles of training and how to get into shape. And three is nutrition, and that's obviously what we're going to be speaking about this evening. Everything from biochemistry to alkalizing and energizing. So everything, I remember when I was a teenager giving the Atkins diet a go, and over the last 13 years I've really had the opportunity to learn a lot about nutrition. And one thing I'll say about nutrition is that the funny thing about nutrition is you can have two world-class nutritionists or experts in the field of nutrition that have opposing views that just get amazing results. So I will say this, that I just want to invite you to open your mind over the next hour and just, put aside any doubts or uncertainties or anything that you might not necessarily agree with, and just absorb it all for now. And what you choose to keep on board at the end, you can, and if what you don't, you can get rid of, because you need to work out what works for you. Nobody knows your body like you do. So I'm keeping tonight as scientific as possible, and you might be wondering, well, who's it for? Well, if you're a personal trainer or a nutritionist or a nutrition enthusiast, it's for you. If you're just somebody that's curious about detoxification or what the hell I'm talking about, then this is for you. If you eat food, then this is also for you as well. Okay, so welcome and congratulations. So a little bit about the nutrition history, the history of nutrition. So a couple of interesting things. First of all, grains were introduced into the diet after the appearance of stone tools. Refined grains were available after the invention of automated rolling and sifting devices. Milk and cheese and other milk products were introduced with the domestication of livestock. Salt consumption rose when technology to mine, process, and transport it became available. Meat consumption increased with animal husbandry. It further increased with the advent of technology that enabled grains to be efficiently fed to cattle, which allowed cattle to be fattened really quickly. And who knows what they're feeding our animals now? All these GMOs and everything that they're feeding the animals, and who knows what's in our food anymore. Sugar consumption has risen since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And let's be honest, over the last 100 years, our eating habits, especially the last 20 years, have dramatically changed. Okay, and I'm not even going to touch on that basically today, but I just want to invite you to open your mind to begin to understand that we are all conditioned in a certain way, that our schooling system, as an example, has been created specifically for the children of the Industrial Revolution and the Industrial Age. It hasn't really changed over the last 50, 60, 70, 80 plus years. And I know that for a fact in a lot of schools they're still teaching a lot of nutrition that they were teaching when I was in school, and maybe even my parents maybe. We know, those of you that are fitness professionals and follow nutrition, we understand that the 5 food groups in the pyramid is not necessarily the most effective way to educate people on correct nutrition. And also, there's a lot of problems now because foods are processed completely different now to the way they were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Our lifestyle is completely different to the way it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I'm going to dabble a little bit into that this evening. So some interesting things. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors consumed a diet very different from what's typical today. The diet was based on minimally processed plant and animal foods, but with the advent of agriculture, the standard Western diet changed greatly. And we all know this, and some of you may have heard of the paleo and so forth, and I guess for myself, I'm not much of a fan of, we work with people all over the world to help them achieve their body transformation goals. You may have been a part of a webinar in the past, the seven laws of weight loss and body transformation. You can find that on YouTube if you like, and I talk about the psychology behind nutrition and our eating patterns and habits. And I think that what works for me, what I found in people that I work with, is to be really open-minded, because every single person has a different psychology, and we all have emotions you cannot not feel, and we all eat according to those emotions, regardless of what people say. And the interesting thing is, what I found is when you count calories, what does it help us focus on? What we focus on expands. So we focus on counting calories. Okay, well, let me ask you this. If you tell people you're on a diet, what does the word diet presuppose? What does it cause you to think of? It causes you to think about food. Now, I could be sitting here speaking to you, and you could be sitting there listening to me, and I can start talking about, imagine going to the fridge and open up the fridge door and staring back at you an open packet of Maltesers. Maybe it's not meat Maltesers, but maybe it's your favorite naughty food. And as you begin to reach your hand in and you pull it out, you open it up, you can smell it, and it causes an explosion within your mouth. It's an automatic response, the salivation response. So without going too in-depth about that, it's really important to understand that my philosophy and the way we work, which works really well for us, is we don't count calories, we don't count proteins, fats and carbs, we don't count macronutrients. We focus on cellular nutrition, we focus on micronutrition, we focus on phytonutrients, we focus on fresh foods straight from the ground, we focus on, I'm a big meat eater, we'll talk about that, we focus on lean cuts of meat when you are having lean and organic foods, we minimize our gluten, we minimize our dairy. And this seems to work extremely well with today's foods that are available, and organic providers are definitely becoming more abundant as well, which is pretty cool. I also focus on the psychology of an individual as well, understanding that no one way works for everyone. No one eating plan, no one diet works for everyone, so we don't necessarily do that. Almost all foods that we eat after being digested, absorbed, and metabolized release either an acid or an alkaline base, a bicarbonate, into your blood. Grains, fish, meat, poultry, shellfish, cheese, milk, and salt all produce acid. So the introduction and dramatic rise in our consumption of these foods meant that the typical Western diet became more acid producing more acid within our blood, and I'm going to explain that more shortly. Consumption of fresh fruit and vegetables decreased, which further made the Western diet acid producing. And the fresh produce that apparently we can get, Woolworths has just announced in Australia that they're going to be accepting GMOs, genetically modified foods, which is very interesting, and they've announced that officially just recently, a couple of weeks ago. So maybe if you shop at Woolworths, maybe that's something to think about as well. You never really know what's happening to your food, so where possible, always buy organic. pH levels in acidity. So almost all foods that we eat after being digested, like I said, absorbed and metabolized, release either an acid or an alkaline base. And you notice I put this in here in twice, because I want you to understand that every time you eat, what happens is, I'm going to go through this a little bit more shortly, if anyone has seen What the Bleep Do Know, it talks about how when we eat food, or when we feel emotions, what happens is our brain releases neuropeptides, okay? And those neuropeptides are locked into cells, into receptor sites. And when we don't eat a certain amount of certain micronutrients, we don't eat a certain amount of zinc, we don't eat a certain antioxidant, what happens is, after time, the cell dies and it's replaced by a weaker form of version of itself, and then the problem is it has more of the receptor sites that it was using for aspartame and sugars and gluten and processed food and all that kind of jargon, and it has lesser receptor sites to even be able to utilize the nutrients and minerals. For example, my mum is a bit of a role model. She spent 20 years, drinking 6, 7, 8 liters of Coke, taking heaps of Panadeine, eating heaps of bread, drinking heaps of milk, and not really having a lot of fruit and veg. And without going into detail, she's really paid for that over the last few years. And I'm going to go more into that. Our blood is slightly alkaline with a normal pH level of between 7.35 and 7.45. The theory behind the alkalinity is that our diet should reflect this pH level as it did in the past. We've evolved over, who knows, depending on what your faith is or your religion is or what you believe or what you don't believe. the fact still remains we've been here for a very long time and we've evolved a certain way. Okay, so the theory behind the alkalinity is that our diet should reflect the pH level as it did in the past and be slightly alkaline. Proponents of alkaline diets believe that a diet high in acid-producing foods disrupts this balance and promotes the loss of essential minerals such as potassium, magnesium, calcium, and sodium. As the body tries to restore equilibrium, the imbalance is thought to make people prone to illness, amongst many other things. I'm going to go through that now. A big problem with this as well is, where do we store a lot of our minerals? You fitness professionals will know this. We store so much in our bones, and our bones, what happens over time? Yeah, the bones deteriorate and so forth. There's many theories that anywhere from 25 to 35, depending on gender, age, muscle mass, and a ton of other variables, we start to go backwards. Things slow down, metabolism slows down. You know, for men, testosterone decreases and so forth. So what is alkalizing? Not only does Tony Robbins, the greatest motivational speaker on the planet, use and promote this very form of detox. In fact, me personally, the first time I came across anything to do with alkalizing was Tony Robbins about 8 years ago with his program. And he works closely with Dr. Robert O. Young and his wife. And they're the authors of The pH Miracle, which is the icon down here, the book down here. If you haven't read The pH Miracle yet, it's a fantastic book, amazing book. These guys have been promoting the alkalizing style of eating for over 20 years now, and it's a credible book. And what they say is this, and these guys are the best of the best. These are the guys that Tony Robbins went to and used for credibility, and most of you would have heard of Tony Robbins. And they say never count calories, fat, grams, or food portions. Okay, say goodbye to low energy, poor digestion, extra pounds, aches and pains, and disease. Say hello to renewed vigor, mental clarity, better overall health, and a lean, trim body. Your health depends on the pH balance of its blood. Striking the optimum 80-20 balance between an alkaline and acidic environment provided by eating certain foods. Now, an innovative, proven effective diet program, which is the alkaline style of eating, which is very similar to what we're talking about this evening, can work with your body chemistry and help revitalize and maintain your health. We discover the secrets of breakfast, the low-carb, high-fiber meal that will be the biggest challenge you'll make, the cleanse, a liquid detox to reduce your body's impurities and normalize digestion and metabolism, ridding your body of harmful bacteria, yeast and molds. What? Yeast and molds? Alkaline foods include tomatoes, avocados, green vegetables, fruits, veg, etc. And mildly acidic foods like fish, grains, and certain fruits. You want to have some of those. You want to eliminate the acidic foods, and we'll talk about those shortly as well. Okay, and also there are some supplements available that will promote alkalinity within the blood. So, a list of symptoms of being too acidic. I found this and I thought, wow, this is a lot of symptoms. I feel like putting these in. And if you ever feel tired or lethargic or bloated, and if you drink alcohol on the weekends, or if you eat a lot of meat, or you eat a lot of eggs and cheese, or you eat a lot of processed food, or you eat a lot of sugar, or you eat a lot of wheat or bread, or drink a lot of milk, or see where we're going, then you might recognize some of these things. The biggest one, I think, is a lot of digestive issues, like gastro and ulcers and different issues like that. So there's a lot of digestive issues with over-acidity. Unhealthy skin, nails, and hair, it's quite common. Obviously, cigarettes are not good as well. I think smoking now is, there's a lot less people smoking now. It seems like the majority of people that do smoke are in their 20s or younger. Teeth and mouth issues, you can see there's a myriad of those in here. I just want to add that if you're watching this live, you will have this available at your disposal within the next 2 weeks to re-watch the recording, and I'm happy to send through this PowerPoint presentation as well. Some others include eyes, head, and general body, headaches, low body temperature, different infections, different cramps and spasms, and some other ones in there as well. Nerves and emotions, and this I think is the biggest one. Low energy, constant fatigue, being continually depressed, the loss of joy and enthusiasm, excessive nervousness, anxiety, the list goes on. They say now that almost 80% in Australia, almost 80% of depression-related issues are caused from our own nutrition. And what happens is that in 2 years from now, every cell in your body, it won't exist. It'll be replaced by another cell. For example, the digestive system realigns itself and has complete new cells at the cellular level every 48 to 72 hours, give or take. Okay, and what that means, how do we create those new cells? We create that through our nutrition. So literally what you eat will determine the creation of those new cells and how they're made. And that brings us to a new topic. For those of you that do follow fitness and nutrition, you may have heard of nutrigenomics.